Good morning, class. Let's begin with a new chapter, that is reproduction in organisms. So, what is reproduction? Reproduction is one of the most important processes by which each living organism make a copy of itself. As we all know, there is a large and a very wide diversity of living organisms on this earth. The plants, the animals, and all the living beings. This comprises of different structure and different forms. Some plants are small and still others are large. Even some animals, they have different modes of living their life, as they have different habitats. Some live in water, some on land, and some in extreme conditions like extreme hot deserts or very much cold places. So that's why the lifespan or the process of reproduction differs in each and every plant or animal. All organ systems except the reproductive system help the organism to remain alive under different conditions of environment. So, but after a point, a time comes when each and everything which is living has to die. The signs of getting old gradually and dying is called as senescence. That's why we all know there's one phase of life, that is death. And for continuing the life further on, we have a very much important need of reproduction. Reproduction is the formation of new species and the multiplication and perpetuation of each species so that the life could go on. Let us discuss the lifespan. The lifespan is called the period from the birth to the natural death of an organism, and it varies from a butterfly to a giant elephant. Even in plants, the smallest plants and the largest plants have different lifespans, but the size of an organism got to do nothing with the lifespan. As a parrot, which is considered small, can live for 140 years, and a dog can survive for only 25 years. A fly has a lifespan of just 1 day, whereas a banyan tree can survive for 200 to 300 years. This is the list of some lifespan of some organisms. Let's discuss the phases of life. There are mainly 4 phases. That is the juvenile phase. Juvenile phase is when an organism haven't reached the reproductive maturity, that is, it is not capable of reproduction. The second is reproductive phase, when the maturity phase, when an organism is capable of reproducing and formation of new species of its own kind. The third one is aging or senescence. The last is death. The death is the last phase of life. So we'll discuss what are the different types of reproduction. Reproduction is basically divided into 2 types. That is the asexual reproduction and the sexual reproduction. So what is asexual reproduction? In asexual reproduction, the new individuals are produced by any means other than the fusion of gametes. That is, the fusion of gametes that takes place in sexual reproduction does not take place in asexual. It means that a reproduction in which new individuals are formed without meiotic division. We all know there are basically 2 types of division, the mitotic and meiotic. Meiotic division is responsible for the reproductive cycle, and mitotic division is in somatic cells. That is, they are not the reproductive cells. So, the meiotic division is not present in the asexual reproduction. This asexual reproduction is also called as apomixis, because the word apo means without and mixis means mixing of something. So, asexual reproduction is without mixing of sex gametes. That is why it is also called as apomixis. This word was suggested by Winkler, who was a scientist and studied reproduction. So, let's discuss about asexual reproduction in some detail. The apomixis or the asexual reproduction is characterized by quick multiplication and reproduction of genetically similar plants. The plants or whatever the organism undergoes asexual reproduction produce clones. A clone is an organism that is produced by one organism and it looks completely like the parent. So, a clone is formed only in asexual reproduction, but in sexual reproduction, The clones could not be formed because there is some other genetic variations. Variations are very much important for the life to go on. That's why sexual reproduction is more advanced rather than asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is usually done by the lower organisms. So the clone is produced in asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction brings multiplication of the species only. It only divides the species into number, but it only increases its number, but it have no variation, and that's why they are of very much lesser use. It doesn't as no variation, that's why they also do not play any role in evolution process. Asexual reproduction is theoretically more advantageous in stable, favorable environment. If we have to maintain a stable environment, that is, we have to maintain the same conditions as present now, the asexual reproduction is favorable in this scenario. But for perpetuating life, for making new organisms, for the variations or the mutations to occur, sexual reproduction is important. And as we all know, the earth is continuously growing, the biodiversity is increasing, and more the biodiversity will be there, there are more chances of a healthy evolution. So let's discuss some characteristics of asexual reproduction. What are the characteristics? All forms of asexual reproduction have common certain basic features. These are gametes. In this asexual reproduction, the gametes could not be formed. A single parent produces offspring. That is, asexual reproduction is uniparental. Uniparental means only one parent is involved. But in sexual reproduction, there is the involvement of both the parents. Cell division is only mitotic. Meiotic division is completely absent. The new individual forms are genetically identical. That is, the clones, and variability, if sometimes the variability occurs, it is only restricted to mutation. Multiplication occurs rapidly in asexual reproduction. The offspring are often found in large numbers. Like I told you, in lower organisms, this asexual reproduction occurs. The protists and mondrons, these are the lower organisms or the most primitive one. In this, the organism or the parent cell divides into two to give rise to new individuals. Thus, in these organisms, cell division itself is a mode of reproduction. There is no difference between reproduction or cell division. Whenever cell division occurs, the reproduction occurs itself. In many single-cell organisms, the reproduction occurs by binary fission. Binary fission we will discuss in detail later on. In this, a cell divides into two halves rapidly, and both of these cells grow into a new adult. Similar kind of division occurs in cell in the yeast. In yeast also, small birds are formed, and these birds get detached from the main body or the parent body and forms into a new organism. So there are some very much important terms related to the asexual reproduction. In flowering plants, there are two main types of asexual reproduction. These are agamospermy as well as vegetative reproduction. So, vegetative reproduction occurs mainly in the plants. And agamospermy. What is agamospermy? Let's discuss it. In this type of method, embryo is formed without fertilization and meiotic division. There is no meiotic division or fertilization in agamospermy. Agamo means agamous, that is, no gamete formation. It means plants belonging to this category propagated through seeds. The propagation occurs by the help of seeds. Seeds are formed, but that the embryo that is formed from the seeds is not involved in meiosis or syngamy. That is, if two cells are involved in the process of agamospermy, the resulting cell or the resulting organism that will be produced, the progeny that will be produced, will be of two cells only. No meiotic or meiotic division is also called the reduction division. That's why no dividing of cells. The agamospermy is of mainly two types, the diplospory and the apospory. Let's discuss what is diplospory. The diplospory is a method in which archisporium differentiates and to form a megaspore mother cell. But this megaspore mother cell directly gives rise to an embryo sac without meiosis. This embryo sac is diploid, and diploid embryo is formed without fertilization from diploid egg of the embryo sac. So let's discuss this. What is diplospory? In this, embryo sac is developed, but the embryo sac that is developed is from unreduced megaspores. Megaspore mother cell. Megaspore mother cell is the main cell that we also call the parent cell of the in the process of diplospory. Whenever a megaspore mother cell forms an embryo sac, it does not undergo reduced division or the meiotic division. So it is diplospory is again of two types: the meiotic diplospory and the mitotic diplospory. In meiotic diplospory, the megaspore mother cell differentiates from nucellus and begins meiosis, but meiosis is inhibited at a particular stage. That is also called abortive meiotic diplospory. Abortive means meiosis occurs at first, but later on the meiosis process dropped, and that's why the division continued, but without involving meiotic division. And the embryo sac that is formed is 2n, and the megaspore mother cell that involved was also 2n. This occurs in the plants such as Taraxacum, Ixaris, Paspalum, and Arabis. So the other type of diplospory is the mitotic one. It is more common. In this type of diplospory, megaspore mother cells appears to be inhibited from entering meiosis. In this, the abortion occurs, that is, meiosis starts, but then afterwards is get declined. But in this, there is no starting, no meiotic division at all, and that's why it is called as mitotic diplospory. The example of this is Antennaria. The other one is apospory. What is apospory? Apospory was discovered by a scientist called Rosenberg, and it was discovered in a plant, Hierarchium. In this method, embryo sac or the female gametophyte is directly formed from any diploid cell of the sporophyte except megaspore mother cell. We have seen in diplospory, megaspore mother cell plays the main role, but in apospory, the plant, the gametophyte is formed, that is formed from any cell other than the megaspore mother cell. And in this also meiosis does not occur. The gametophyte in this remains diploid. No meiosis, that's why the 2n condition remains 2n and the diploid maintains to be diploid. The example for this is Paspalum and Cenchrus. The apospory is the development of 2n, that is the diploid gametophytes without meiosis and spores from vegetative or non-reproductive cells of the sporophyte. The vegetative or non-reproductive cells are all the cells except the megaspore mother cell. Megaspore mother cell is the only reproductive cell. In contrast, apogamy is the development of 1n, that is the haploid sporophyte. Apogamy is reverse or opposite of apospory. In this, the development of haploid sporophytes occurs without gametes and syngamy from vegetative cells of the gametophyte. In this, gametes formation does not occur and syngamy occurs between vegetative cells, not the reproductive cells. This is the main difference between apospory and apogamy. The apospory, in this, the development of diploid gametophytes occur without meiosis and spores from vegetative or non-reproductive cells of the sporophyte. The non-reproductive cells are all the cells of the female gametophyte except the megaspore mother cell. And in this, this is a type of reproduction occurring in some ferns. Ferns are the pteridophytes. In this, the sporophyte develops from the gametophyte without fusion of gametes. The next one is the production of gametophyte without the production of spores. And in this, the formation of embryo occurs without involving fertilization. Produces a diploid gametophyte, and this produces a haploid embryo. In this, a gametophyte is produced, whereas in this, embryo is produced. Here the number is 2n and it is half, that is haploid. It occurs in Anthoceros and it occurs in Funaria. The next one we have to discuss is parthenogenesis. It is a very important process. It occurs both in plants as well as animals. We will discuss here for animals, that is honeybee. What is parthenogenesis? In this process, haploid egg cell of female gametophyte is responsible to form haploid embryo without fertilization. In the process of parthenogenesis, here we can see two types. This one is the normal fertilization, the syngamy. In this, male bee has given its N and the queen has also given its 2N, the diploid and the haploid, and the fertilization occurs between the sperm cells and the egg cells. This is the process of fertilization and the three are formed. But here, that is the process of parthenogenesis. If the parthenogenesis process is followed, then the haploid egg cell of female is responsible to form a haploid only drone. Only a haploid drone is formed. No other. These two things will be formed. The worker, which is the sterile female, and the queen will not be formed when the bees will follow the process of parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis is mainly restricted to the female gametophyte. Only female gametophyte when is involved, then we call it parthenogenesis. Let's move on further with the different types of asexual reproduction. There are basically 6 types of asexual reproduction, which is fission, fragmentation, budding, regeneration, vegetative propagation, and spore formation. We'll start with the fission, the binary fission. What is fission? Fission occurs in single cell organisms mainly belonging to the kingdom Protista and Monera, the primitive kingdom. It is further divided into 2 types, the binary fission and the multiple fission. What is simple binary fission? The plane of cytoplasmic division passes through any direction. Like if the binary fission is simple one, that is the plane, the dividing plane, when passes through any direction, be it from here or is this side or this side, whatever the division is, the forming the whatever the organism is undergoing this type of division forms a new organism. That is mainly occurring in amoeba. In amoeba, there is no perfect shape. The division could be done in any direction. That's why it is called simple binary division. What is binary division? In binary division, equal to halves, if it is done, then this is not the case of amoeba, because in amoeba splitting occurs from any direction. Binary division, binary means formation of 2. So can also occur in one particular axis. For example, in Leishmania, Leishmania is a parasitic flagellated protozoan which causes Kala Azar. It is a kind of fever. In humans, divides only longitudinally. So the difference is that whatever the organism is present, it divides in different planes. That's why the fission is of many types. It is simple binary or transverse binary or longitudinal binary fission. Leishmania has a whip-like flagella. Whip means a form of tail at one end of the cell. Cell division occurs in relation to these flagella. These flagella that are present in the Leishmania are mainly responsible for the process of binary division. This diagram shows the binary division, that is the prokaryotic chromosome. This is a bacteria. The duplication of chromosome occurs and this is equally divided into the 2 cells, and then a wall is maintained between the two. The 2 daughter cells get divided and start to form a new organism. This is the binary fission amoeba, simple one. No binary, there will be no division, equal, but the plane could be from anywhere. That's why it is called as simple binary. The other one is multiple. What is multiple fission? Multiple fission is the division of the parent into many daughter individuals simultaneously. That is, whenever division is occurring, it continues to occur until many daughter cells are formed, and this occurs in Plasmodium mainly and amoeba. The next one is fragmentation. The fragmentation is also a form of asexual reproduction in which an entirely new organism is formed from a fragment of the parent. This is the fragment of the parent, and it contains nucleus. Nucleus is the main body. If a parent cell does not contain nucleus, the fragmentation or any type of reproduction will not be possible. This divides into 2, and these 2 starts to behave like a new organism and produce from the same parent. These are identical clones of the parent. It occurs in multicellular organisms also, whose body organization is fairly similar. It is not only restricted to the unicellular. In multicellular organisms it also occurs, but only those which are having very much simple organization of cells. Those are the lower organisms, the annelids, starfish, fungi, lichens, some algae such as Spirogyra. This is an example of Spirogyra. It is Spirogyra shown here. The filaments of Spirogyra, upon maturation, break into small pieces or fragments which grow into new individuals. Let's see regeneration. What is regeneration? The formation of the lost part. Regeneration mainly occurs in Hydra. In Hydra, this is amputation. Amputation means cutting. In Hydra, the adult, this is the adult Hydra. It divides into two, the upper part and the lower part. This when upper part forms the bottom part by itself, it regenerates the bottom part, and this lower part is able to generate the upper part by itself, and thus it forms a complete new organism. Similar occurs in salamander also. We have seen in lizard that if it lost its tail, the tail is regenerated after a few time or a smaller, very much smaller period of time. The next one is budding. Budding is the formation of daughter individual from a small projection. That is, the bud arising on the parent body is called budding. It is common method of asexual reproduction. In budding, new individuals are formed by mitosis. Examples of the budding are the budding in yeast is very much common, and Hydra. In Hydra, the buds are formed from the parent body, and this bud keeps on sucking on nutrition and gets detached after some time, and this detached Hydra forms a new individual. The nucleus of the Hydra plays an important role as one of the daughter nuclei that is formed. The nucleus is also divided and it goes to the daughter cell that is formed by the process of budding. Thus, budding results in the formation of daughter cells of unequal sizes that later grow. The size of this individual formed is not of the size of the parent cell, as it is a little smaller, but with due course of time, it grows into a complete adult like that of the parent cell. In case of Hydra, the daughter Hydra even develops mouth and tentacles develop around the mouth before getting detached. In Hydra, the tentacles, these are the tentacles, these also arises even when it is still attached to the body of the plant, that is the parent cell. Later, we'll discuss on with the further chapter. Thank you.